everybody, my name is Suraj Shrestha and I'm the CEO founder of Anthropose. So I would like to welcome you all to the Storytellers Social Change Maker series. And now, getting back to the question. मेरो US को सेकेन्ड चोटीको भिजा अप्लाई नै डिनाइ भयो भनेर one of my cousins he approached me. And then I asked him, त्यसो भए अब के गर्छस् त हैन के गर्छस् भन्ने मैले उसलाई सोधेँ अनि त्यसपछि चाहिँ उसले चाहिँ भन्यो एकदम डिप्रेस्ड थियो एकदम sad, he was sad, like never seen anybody that depressed or sad, हैन त्यो टाइमसम्म he was depressed. Then suddenly he looked up, had a smile in his face. अब अस्ट्रेलिया ट्राई गर्छु हैन that was what he said, literally that was what he said. Now I'm going to try for Australia since I didn't make it to the US. Now the question is, how many of you have been a part of a conversation like this? I'm guessing a lot of you, at least a family member. Can you just raise your hand, please? Yeah, majority of us, right? Okay, so that was how Anthropose actually, it all started. It all started with the negativity that we had amongst the youth. So now I'm here up on the stage. What I'll be doing is I'll be talking about Anthropose a bit, and then I'll be focusing on what really inspired us, the team, to really take on the challenge of launching Anthropose. So beginning, the name. The name Anthropose. It's actually spelled without the E at the end, and it literally means human being in Greek. So why human being? Now, we like to believe that human beings, in the crudest and rawest of the form, are very empathetic towards things. We are a social animal. We like being in a society, but as time passed on, we somehow grew individualistic, a bit selfish. We got more into materialistic things, right? And at the same time, few of the places, say the first world countries, they developed, they progressed a lot, whereas we didn't. We didn't. So we thought, now we being Nepalese, and the progress that we have to keep up with, we need to have that extra drive, that extra effort that we need to put into everything that we do, just to be able to be in par with the race that we are competing in with, say, countries like America, Australia, UK, or per se, even say India. So we put an E at the end of the word to signify that we have to have that extra drive, that extra effort to actually realize and make your dreams come true. Now the slogan that we go with is get, give, and change. Whenever we talk about change, it's not that easy. I mean, like, it does not really start out with a single, it starts out with an individual, but not a single individual can really take it to that level of change that you've ever dreamed of. So when we came up with this slogan, what our actual idea was that to bring a substantial change, a society, to its smallest level of families or say communities need to come in together and then work towards the same social problem that we see. So it was important that you get something out of it, you give something back to the society, and then change the society as you know today. You've got to have that passion in you, you've got to give something, you've got to get it, and then you make the change that you've thought of. So, yes, now as you saw in the video, for every 10 pairs of sunglasses that we sell, we provide a free cataract surgery for people in rural Nepal. Mind you, it's in rural Nepal, not focused in Kathmandu, because like there are lots of many other organizations that does that. So, Nepal भनेको काठमाडौँ मात्रै होइन. काठमाडौँबाट 13 किलोमिटर बाहिर जानु भयो भनेदेखि नेपालको वास्तविकता त्यहाँ गएर देखिन्छ. So we thought, why not do cataract? But we wanted to do something for the society itself. We researched over everything that we had. We figured out नेपालमा cataract एकदम ठुलो problem छ. There are like 200,000 people who are visually impaired. And out of those 200,000 people, there are 94,765 people who are blind. And I use the word blind, it might be offensive to some, but it's really important that I use such words so that people understand the gravity of the problem. So 94,765 people, they are blind. Now, the joke is, Nepal has the best ophthalmologic centers probably in the world, and the best ophthalmic surgeon in the world, Dr.Ruit. Now you see the irony that you've got the best of the world, and then you've got worst of the scenarios that you could ever imagine of. Now you need to have a model that brings in these two things and then actually solve the problem. We needed a model that actually bridged the solution and the problem. So that's why Anthropose. And quite often, whenever I talk about Anthropose, I'm usually asked, किन for profit, किन NGO किन नगरेको? NGO गरेको भए फन्डिङ्सहरु धेरै हुन्छ, हैन? पैसा हुन्छ. You could just do it. सजिलो हुन्छ. I'm like सजिलो हुन्छ. That is what they think. सजिलो त obviously केही गर्नु पनि त्यो लेभलमा गर्नलाई सजिलो चाहिँ हुँदैन. But then that is what I often get. So why profit? Why for profit भन्दाखेरि नेपालमा whenever we talk about social development, कुनै पनि प्रब्लमको बारेमा कुरा गर्छौं भनेदेखि we are very donor focused. नेपालमा अहिले पनि present day मा there are 1008 projects that are being funded by several donor agencies running. It's a good thing that people, the donor agencies, they have that empathy towards Nepal. But we as Nepalese, should we be proud of it? The question is, should we be proud of it? It's not. Because like someday that resource will fade out. So you've got to be self-sustainable. You've got to be self-dependent. And it's not just about that, but it's also about utilizing, increasing the utility of the money that you've collected when you thought you would start a project. For example, if you collected 100,000 rupees, you've got two choices. What you could do is that you could easily donate it to some NGOs, or you could use it for a for-profit model where you could actually get some return out of it, and then use the same money for the same cause again. So the 100,000 that you have has a double impact when you follow the for-profit model. It's not that easy, as said. There are lots of hurdles. You've got to keep in mind. So that was the reason why we chose the for-profit model for Anthropose. Now we've discussed about the logical side of the things. We've discussed about what the problems are, what kind of models would actually work or wouldn't work, our ego, our pride, our sense of pride for being a Nepalese. Now, the thing is, after all these things, if you have a look at it, people still complain about things not being the way it should be. The moment when we start talking about these problems, it's only when we are with a group of people sitting down in a room, drinking, and then you kind of start to feel that the need of talking something bigger than yourself. I mean, like, that's what usually happens, right? When you start drinking, you get a bit drunk, and then you start talking about politics, and then you start talking about social problems, and then what happens the next day? You forget. You get back to your work. 9 to 5, sitting at your desk, thinking about Friday that's going to come. I'm going to drink as much as I drank last week. I'm going to talk about the same thing again, right? So things have to change. Old ways won't open new doors. We've got to understand that. Now, coming to the interesting part, I've got 3 stories to tell about what inspired the idea of Anthropose. So here it goes. The 3 M's: miserables, mediocres, and marvels. So this is a classification of people that I kind of filtered out during my education abroad. And I was talking about miserables. Miserables are people who, despite of not having that ability, try to go abroad just because they have to, and then make a living for themselves. Now, there's an interesting story about it. After I had graduated from my A levels from Maltby Institute, I was on my way to Australia for my further studies. And when I was about to leave, what I saw was there was a long queue of people with blue hats on, with blue bags, standing right in front of the boarding pass checking counter. We passed through that, we boarded the plane, we were sitting there, and then we were all comfortable there, and then the plane took off. Then they came up with the trolleys with all the fancy drinks, right? So, and what happened was the Nike of the group happened to be sitting right beside me. So we were there, the steward came, and he asked me for a drink. I said, I'll just get a beer, right? I said, I'll get a beer. So I got a can of beer. The guy asked for a glass of Sprite. He got the Sprite. The steward moved on to the other seat, and then the guy sitting right in front of me, he looked back at the Nike's glass. Then he saw some bubble coming up. He saw that, a transparent thing with some bubbles. He looked at the trolley, he pointed at the bottle of water, and then he said, I wanted that. And that is what she gave him. And then he got it, he had it put in his tray, then he started comparing. He just started looking at it, and then he just stood up and then said, Dai, tapaikoma fees cha mero fees ai chaina. So what I'm trying to say is now that is the level of people who are going abroad in hopes of getting a better life, who don't know what Sprite is, right? So now, don't you think we, being the educated and the fortunate ones, should think about creating an opportunity, a solution to overcome these problems? Do you not think? And then there are mediocres and marvels. These are the guys who are doing fairly good enough, settled abroad. They're pretty happy with their nice cars, nice house on mortgage, and they're pretty happy with it, with student loans on the head. They're pretty happy with it, right? The marvels, they go to Ivy League colleges. Not everybody, though. I'm not generalizing. I'm just talking about a significant mass of people, right? So they go to Ivy League colleges. They talk about stuff. They are way brilliant. When they speak, it's like, wow, these guys can talk, right? These guys can talk. So, and then I start asking them, like everybody, whenever we meet around, we ask them, so now we've graduated, what will we be doing? My answer would be straight, I'll be going back to Nepal. And everybody else would do, Nepal got a Nepal ma opportunities haina. Nepal ma got those are the mediocre ones. The marvels ones would be like, Nepal ma cha, garna sakincha. Opportunity हामीले गरेर क्रिएट गर्नुपर्छ तर एकछिन 2-3 वर्ष कुर्छु यहाँ अमेरिकामा अलिकता काम गर्छु अलिकता क्यापिटल जम्मा गर्छु नेपाल आएर के गर्छु सो त्यो अलिकताले 3-4 वर्षको टाइम फ्रेम यतिकै खाइदिन्छ त्यहाँ सो त्यस्तो भनेपछि चाहिँ के गर्ने त हामीले so that's the option that we have is you come back you start with what you have and where you are. Okay, and now my second story is about a Tibetan Mastiff and the curious stare. So, after I graduated again from Maltby after my A levels, what I did was I took a year off. My dad knows about it, he's here in the audience. I took a year off, traveled all over Nepal, and this particular trip had a mark in me. So, what happened was I was to travel to Somdang in search of a bhote kukur. Ekdam ramro bhote kukur. I wanted a bhote kukur for my house, right? So that is what I did. I went there with a bunch of my friends there in the audience as well. So they know about the story. And then we got there. It was raining. It was raining hard. And then since we'd ridden our motorbikes for a long time, we were tired. We wanted to eat something. And then when we got there, we actually saw there were only 3 houses, a glass mine, and a cheese factory. So that was it. That was Somdang for you. And so we got there, we were hungry, we asked the local guy to cook us some food. So he cooked us some food. So we sat around his courtyard small courtyard sort of thing. So we just sat there, we started eating. And after a while, we noticed that few people had started to surround us. And they were like, we were there, eating, These are, and I am that, the people, group of people, staring. I'm just looking at them. And then, out of curiosity, I asked him, "Dai ke bhayo?" भनेर भन्दा सोद्धाखेरि what he said was, 3 वर्षपछि 3 वर्षपछि सङ्गलामा कोही नयाँ मान्छे आएको रहेछ. So now imagine, that's the reality of Nepal. 3 वर्षसम्म मान्छे नआएको ठाउँमा how can you expect basic healthcare, basic education, or per se even say water, right? Probably Smart Pani could do something there, right? Right? So yeah, now that's the reality of Nepal. That's the reality of Nepal. That was the whole point of Tibetan Master and the Curious there. Yes, now this one's interesting. Nepal, where is it? Now during my abroad studies, what actually happened, I'm like, I look different, obviously, when compared to the white guy. They asked me, "Hey, what's your name?" "I'm Suraj." "Okay." "Hey, I'm John." "All right, nice to meet you, John." Then the very second question would be, "Where are you from?" I'd be like, "I'm from Nepal." "Nepal?" Then I would think like, probably Nepal भनेको बुझ्नलाई, if I just have an English twang to it and then say Nepal, then he might understand it. Then I'd say Nepal. Then he'd be like, "Oh, Naples in Italy. You're an Italian?" No, I'm not an Italian. I'm from Nepal. I'm from Nepal. So that was what I used to say. And if he didn't get it, then I'd be like, "You know where Mount Everest is?" Few people get it, few people don't. The ones who get it, all right, fine, they know where Nepal is. The ones who don't know where Mount Everest is, then I'd be like, do you know about Lord Buddha?" Then they'd be like, yeah, I do. So the ones who know Lord Buddha, they know where Nepal is. Now for the people who don't know about Lord Buddha, I'd be like, do you know where India and China is? Yeah. We are right in between India and China. So now the sad part is, I had to use some other country to introduce my own. Now that's the sad part, right? Is it not a sad thing to say? That you've got to use India and China to introduce your own country? Now things get worse. After I graduated from US, I came back here and I went to China for my dad's business. I made few acquaintances there, and then they would ask me the same question again. Nationality. They would ask me, "Where are you from?" Then I'd be like, "Nepal. I'm from Nepal." Right? And then they'd be like, "Nepal? Where's that place?" Right? "Where's that place?" Then I'd be like, the same thing again. I'm like, I have to ask them, "Do you know where Mount Everest is?" And they'd be like, "What? Mount Everest is ours." Mount Everest is ours. That is what they said, right? And then a few months back, now my second reference of Lord Buddha. India claimed Lord Buddha to be theirs, right? So now, the even more sadder part is, the first 2 references that I was using was being claimed by my third reference as being theirs. So what's our identity? So it was important that we took these problems of opportunity, of reality, and our identity, and created a model that actually took these things into account and have a model there. So that is how we came up with Anthropose, which now we wanted a solution that really took into these 3 different problems that I just mentioned. And doing this was not easy. And is not easy, and probably will not ever be easy. It's only, the problems that we just talked about are so big that our lifetime might not be enough, but then if we could somehow live a legacy of doing something, and then if we can just make people believe that if we start today and be so hopeful about it that the people tomorrow can actually continue doing it, this model will actually work. It's about taking a society, right? It's about taking a developed society, then having this rural society over here, then collaborating these 2 societies in such a way that the people in the developed society knew the stories about the rural people, their daily struggles. And these people over here, who have their own fair set of problems, knew that their fellow beings, Nepalese, were actually helping them out with their problems. Imagine it wouldn't be that hard. So it's about having a thing locally grown rather than being donor focused, rather than having things that would only make it dependable, not progressive about ideas. So I think this model really needs to be disseminated in the society in such a way that we all get to know each other in that way and then talk about bigger change. So it's not that hard. It starts with you getting a single pair of sunglasses and giving a gift of vision to someone in need, and then you being a part of the change while changing somebody else's life. Thank you.